Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to a new live episode of He Said, He Said, He Said, a look at the world from a seasoned Black man's perspective. I'm your host, Alvin King, and it is Friday, September the 12th, and it is a beautiful day here in Washington, D.C. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the death of Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was assassinated on Wednesday afternoon at a university in Utah. He was a conservative commentator, and he was also a proud supporter of Donald Trump and the MAGA movement. Now, let me be clear. I do not condone violence at any level, in any form, in any place. That is not who I am, nor what I stand for. But as a Black man, I will not allow myself to be sympathetic towards someone like Charlie Kirk, a man who openly carried disdain and hatred for people of color, for the LGBTQ community, and for anyone who did not look or believe like him. People will tell us that his rhetoric was simply freedom of speech. They'll ask us to glorify it, to see him as a patriot. Some might even dare to compare him to Dr. Martin Luther King, a man who lived and died for nonviolence and equality. But Charlie Kirk was none of that. He used every platform he was given to spew division. He once called the Civil Rights Act a mistake. He dismissed Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson as nothing more than a DEI hire. And that's just a fraction of the hateful words he left behind. So no, I will not mourn this man. My sympathy tonight extends only to his children who did not choose the life or the ideology that he forced upon them, but who now must carry his absence. We will not have a story about Charlie Kirk tonight on this show because our show, it will be completely uplifting and filled with love. So tonight I will end this piece of the show by saying, rest Charlie Kirk, rest Charlie Kirk. Now, in other news, the release of a trove of emails connected to Jeffrey Epstein has once again pulled back the curtains on a dark web of power, privilege, and secrecy. These communications are shifting or shining a harsher light on Epstein's long-term associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, and the secrets she worked so hard to conceal. As investigators continue to sift through these documents, questions grow louder about how far the influence of this scandal really reaches. To this, I say keep your eyes open because everything else that's going on is a total distraction from this here, because there's some important earth-shattering information in all these documents. So don't let anything else distract you, ladies and gentlemen. So yesterday, America paused in reflection as it has been 20 years since the September 11th attacks, 20 years since a day that forever changed our country and the world. We remember the lives lost and the families shattered and the resilience of a nation that stood together in its darkest hour. 2 decades later, the memory of 9/11 still calls us to honor the past while striving for a safer, more united future. And tonight, again, we are here to celebrate, and this evening is all about celebrating creativity, vision, and impact. Our show tonight, we welcome a very special guest, Calvin Michaels, a true quadruple threat, singer, songwriter, producer, and creative powerhouse. Calvin has been breaking boundaries and inspiring audiences for many, many years. And in our We See You segment tonight, we will sit down with him for an in-depth conversation about his journey, his artistry, and his vision for what's next. This is Breaking Boundaries, the creative impact of Calvin Michaels. And we're so glad to have him here and you tonight. So again, we have an action-packed show. The guys are ready. I'm ready. So if you're ready, let's get on with the chat. Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
Hello.
Happy Friday to you. Happy Friday.
To you.
being that the two of you are in DC, I hope you got a chance to enjoy this beautiful weather today.
No, I've been in federal. I've been in federal jury duty all week.
Okay. And
really locked down indoors.
Yeah. And how about you, Mr. Bobby? I mean, I know you can have it either way. I can have it
either way. I was actually in more than not because of meetings and so forth. So I didn't get to enjoy a whole lot of it. But I can tell you, when I got off from work, the windows were down and the fresh air was coming in. So, but there is the weekend, and we are predicted to have really, really nice weather here in the DMV over the weekend. So I will definitely be out and about enjoying it this weekend, including attending a big dinner that I think I might see you at.
We can talk offline about that. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for being here tonight. If I can, let me go ahead and say hello to our viewers who have come on. Eric Shields from North Carolina. Thank you for being here tonight. Michelle Bowie. Dr. Toole is back. I missed you last week. I hope you were on vacation doing something fun. Monica, thank you for being here this evening. Who else do we have here? Charles Reese is here from LA. Come on now. Come on now, Dr. Reese. Dr. Reese. Thank you for being here. So what's going on in the chat? What's going on with you guys this week? Tell me.
Yeah, let's okay. Thank you, Bobby. I'm going to start with something that I think is pretty interesting that's not getting a lot of attention. And that is 8-time Grammy Award-winning artist Usher, who is now the new face of Ralph Lauren's Club New York. It's a new fragrance launched by Ralph Lauren, and Usher, like I said, is the new face. The 46-year-old recording artist marks the first time that he has such a deal, and it also marks the first time that Ralph Lauren has partnered with the recording artist to launch a product. Now, we know that Ralph Lauren, the organization, the company itself, is the premier fashion line that represents American fashion, if you will. Mm-hmm. So for me, I feel like Usher getting this kind of opportunity at this stage in his life is a pretty big deal. The fragrance is available at Macy's, and it's also available at the Ralph Lauren website. The prices range from about $35 for a 10 milliliter kind of stick, to $185 for a 200 milliliter bottle. So there's 4 price points for this new fragrance. Excuse me.
Did you say 280?
No, $185.
$185 for the bottle. Okay, got it.
The 200 milliliter bottle. That's the high end, and the smallest one is the $35 pen, which is only 10 milliliters. Now, this is kind of like mid-tier in terms of fragrances, so it's not quite up there with the Sauvage or Yves Saint Laurent, but it's a very good fragrance.
Interesting.
Well, I was going to give you kudos a little bit for I was like, okay, that's some good PR, but then you just shot it down by saying, but it's not as good as the rest of them. I was like, come on, Sean. I was like, this Sean, Usher, hire Sean. But then you were like, this was not as good as Prada. But I'm going to say,
in all fairness, it's a perfume, so they don't have a eau de toilette. Is that how you pronounce it? So right now. Okay, yeah. So right now they only have a perfume, so they don't have the elixir, for example. Maybe that'll come next year or something. But hopefully they'll get the elixir and it'll be right up there with Sauvage.
Well, Bobby, were you going to say something about that? Because I'm you know me and Usher. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, first of all, I do think it's pretty special that a Black man is being the face of a major fragrance by a major fashion house such as Ralph Lauren. So I think, it's kind of rolling right along with the whole Martha's Vineyard, Oak Bluffs, Morehouse, Spelman, campaign that Ralph Lauren has been supporting within the Black community. So I think that's pretty special. And I think, I love a good scent. So I haven't smelled it. I'm certainly going to check it out and see what it smells like. Doesn't mean I'll buy it automatically because not every scent works well on everyone, as we well know. I may get a sample to see how it works with the chemistry.
The $35 bottle.
I'm glad that he got this because I think I think this was a good fit. I honestly think that it was a good fit and that he was on there. So thank you, Sean. Yep. Usher, do your thing. Get that paper. We like it.
It looks good in the campaign, and we'll give him that.
Yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Meh. Okay, I'm sorry. See, y'all, I need to move on because y'all have me talk about that shit like this. But here's your opportunity, because also who's getting some clicks, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about Lizzo. For years, she has been a symbol of unapologetic self-love, confidence, and pure talent. And now she's turning heads even more with a remarkable transformation. With her recent weight loss, Lizzo is being celebrated as the new face of high fashion, already being mentioned as the next cover girl for powerhouse magazines like Vogue and Style. But what stands out isn't just the physical change about Lizzo, it's the glow, the energy, the renewed confidence that radiates from her. Lizzo's beauty has always been undeniable, but today it shines with an even greater brilliance to me. And we know that when an artist feels good about themselves, as we'll find out tonight, it spills over into the art that they create. And if this is the energy that Lizzo is carrying into her next chapter, then the music she's about to bless us with is going to be nothing short of extraordinary. I love a good makeup job. And that last picture that our producer put up, I still I dream about Lizzo showing up in my bedroom door just to show up and give me makeup or give me face. Okay. But
that other one too, where where the twins are kind of, that's boom.
Sean said in a post, makeup does wonders, and it does. It does. So kudos to Lizzo.
Oh my gosh. Well, both of you were citing stories of some positive things, but one of the celebrities that I know that we care about here, and he said, has been getting a little bit of pushback around something that was done on a personal level. And we're talking about Russell Wilson and, of course, his famous and beautiful wife, Ciara. Now, they are getting some pushback on the internet. And, of course, people on the internet always have more to say about things than they really ought to. But anyway, Ciara made a move, adding her husband, Russell Wilson's last name to her oldest son, Future Zaire's legal name several years ago. Now, though it only became public recently during a post from the U.S. Open, a family shot that they did. Now, the 11-year-old still legally retains his biological father, Future's last name, which is Wilburn. So his full name is now Future Zaire Wilson. Wilburn. Wilson. So the change was highlighted, as I said, during this U.S. Open photo. And look at this lovely family; they are as gorgeous as one.
I love it.
And so there've been people saying, it's disrespectful to Future and all of this. And I just, I kind of have mixed feelings. First of all, I believe that I don't think anything like that could be done without, some kind of discussion and arrangement with him. We all have heard bits and pieces of their relationship. None of us would know all the details and specifics of it. But what I will say is that Russell Wilson seems to have taken this child in as if it was his birth child, like from the very beginning, before, because of course, when Ciara and Russell married, she had Future, and they have four additional children at this point, 3 additional children at this point. And from all that I have seen in terms of social media, or whatever, you can't tell you don't look at him and say he loves those kids in a different way. I think they are an extraordinarily beautiful blended family. And, I think as long as the husband is good with it and appreciates the fact that this other man has come into this child's life, I see it as a win-win, but people have too much to say about a lot of things. So I don't know what you guys think about it, but
it's nobody's business.
What Sean said, period.
Well, they're beautiful.
Period. Kudos to the family. Just, don't be trying to come down here trying to win a football game, Russell Wilson, okay? Because we will send you home back to New York like we did last Sunday. Commandersville. Okay, I'm sorry. Had to get that in. I'm sorry. Okay, moving right along.
we know you love your Commanders, so I'm not going to ask you.
Yes, he does.
But this is a DC story. So for those of you who are not familiar with DC and its politics, we only have one representative in the U.S. House of Congress, and that is 88-year-old Eleanor Holmes Norton. She has been in that position, reelected every 2 years since 1991. Count them, 1991. So that she has announced recently that she is going to run again for her seat. But this time around, she is being asked by the DC Black Church Initiative to quietly step down. This is what the organization has said in the latest issue of Star Guys News. The DC Black Church Initiative, a coalition of African American faith communities dedicated to eradicating racial disparities, has issued a heartfelt and respectful request for Delegate Eleanor Holmes Norton to resign from her position at age 88. NBCI believes it is time for a new generation of leadership to take the helm in the fight for justice and equality.
Yep.
Ms. Holmes, she is to be respected because as the sole congresswoman for Washington, D.C., she has done some extraordinary things for her career. She marked the groundbreaking achievements and was a tireless advocate for the people of Washington, D.C. Before her tenure in Congress, she was appointed by President Jimmy Carter as the first woman to chair the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Her work as a civil rights and feminist leader, law professor, and board member of the Fortune 500 companies made her a national figure even before she entered public office. So again, let's give her kudos, give her flowers now. But this marks a change in DC because there are gatekeepers when it comes to politics in DC. And for the Black church to call for her to step down, that's pretty significant. That's a shift.
Wow. I'm first of all, our viewers have Monica Pleasant said it's time. Dr. Toole is just like, wow. Like really.
That's different, Dr. Toole.
and Monica, I'm sorry, Alma, I saw your comment about people need to mind their business about Russell Williams and Sierra. You're absolutely right. But yeah, praise her for her work that she has done. But I think there should be a time limit on when some of these people who hold these prestigious seats should move on. And nothing against their skills. No, it's just that it's time. And so I wish the best for her, but I must give her kudos, like you said, on her accomplishments because
I echo that. I think that, the reason that we have elections is that the people that are being represented have the opportunity to voice their opinion through their vote, to have someone that they feel they connect to, someone who resonates their sentiments and all of that. And I'm not saying that she does not, because she certainly has, I think, represented the district with honor and distinction over time. But at 88, I don't believe that the number of voters who she's representing are necessarily connecting to her and articulate and that she is necessarily representing all of their thoughts, their issues and priorities and so forth. So, with all due respect, I think for anyone, there's only so much time that I think you should be in that leadership and pass the torch to others who, who have the capacity and the ability and the connection to be able to represent.
Well, I'm glad that the Big Cheese is back because the Big Cheese says something that I wanted to say. The Black church is irrelevant in all of this right now. I wanted to say that. I needed to first of all, I needed to say that through you, the Big Cheese. Because
you want to say it, but you're not, but the Big Cheese.
Because I'm not sure of what the Black church, their role in being so instrumental in getting her out of that seat. What is that saying? And maybe I need to do a little bit more homework on that. Yeah, but at face value, I don't know what that means. And so all I hear is like a car screeching right now.
But think about this. DC still has a lot of Black churches, even though a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can tell you that even though the Congresswoman isn't really writing her own statements, she is putting out statements, and people who are in these churches are still saying, thank you, Congresswoman, for us and what have you. So the support is still there. So the Black church cannot be dismissed because in DC, there are a lot of them here, and people are still going either in person or online.
And their endorsement matters, and within in terms of DC politics, their endorsement clearly matters. So that I think is now one can argue whether or not they should be speaking on it, but the reality of it is politicians go to churches when they are running for offices because they want those endorsements. They understand the power of those churches in this area in particular. So it's if they are free to endorse candidates and get people to go out and vote, I think they are also positioned to be able to say, we think it's also time for her to move. Now, and again, each congregant has their own vote.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you all made a believer out of me. Thank you for answering. The Big Cheese, you got me in trouble. But I thank you for that. And Marco May said that she should stay home and make cookies. Bad. Go to your room.
Oh, what?
Go to your room, Marco May. Go to your room.
Making cookies for her. Look at Marco Mays. Come on now.
Well, before we close the chat, I wanted to, if you guys don't know, I wanted to have a conversation about Billy Porter because he had to step away from the Broadway revival of Cabaret at the Kit Kat Club after being hospitalized with sepsis, a life-threatening infection that demands urgent care. Doctors are optimistic, though, about the production, are optimistic about his health, but the production will now has closed early, or will close early on September 21st. Billy Porter is more than a performer, ladies and gentlemen. He's a style icon, a trailblazer, and a fearless voice for the LGBTQIA+ community. From Pose to Kinky Boots, he's shown us that living authentically and boldly is the truest form of art. His red carpet looks and his unapologetic presence have changed culture itself. But sepsis is serious. I had to look it up because I had never even heard of it before I found out, guys. It can shut down organs, and if untreated, it can be fatal. This is a moment to raise awareness about sepsis, ladies and gentlemen. Early detection can save lives. So while the fate of Cabaret remains uncertain, what matters most is Billy's health. So let's keep him in our prayers and send him some strength. And remember that even in this pause, his influence continues to shine far beyond the stage, guys.
We wish him well. Yes.
I didn't know what sepsis was, so
was very serious.
John, I had to look it up because I was like, sepsis, is that something new? I've been around for 66 years. I ain't never heard the word sepsis. I did it. And, I
consider it a blessing because it's very serious.
I never heard of it. So, all right, guys, like I said, we have an entertainer on the show. And I don't mean that like quietly, ladies and gentlemen. Our special guest is here tonight in our section of We See You. So if you guys are ready, can we go ahead and introduce our special guest tonight?
Yes.
Can we do that? All right. Well, here I go. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight in We See You, we are spotlighting the artistry of Calvin Michaels. Musical producer, creative director, choreographer, comedian, and filmmaker. His new short film, Pull Over So I Can Hit You, is making its way through major film festivals, and his self-produced albums, Before Tomorrow and After Yesterday, which I love those titles, are streaming now. From YouTube commentary on culture and politics to over a decade leading a top-ranked after-school program in DC, Calvin is proof that creativity can break boundaries and transform communities. So help me please welcome, for breaking boundaries, the creative impact of Calvin Michaels. Calvin!
Hey, folks. What an intro.
Well, that's how we do it here. Thank you for joining us tonight and
no problem.
Taking a break from your busy schedule.
No problem.
Dude. And for what you do, there's some stuff out there that you talk about, y'all. Before we end, I'm going to tell y'all how to follow him because he be talking about it, okay, and going in on it. So welcome to the show tonight, Calvin. So I'm going to start off our first question. We want to, dive into, your background a little bit. So, Calvin, the theme of tonight's show is breaking boundaries. So what does the phrase mean to you personally and professionally, if you may?
Breaking the boundaries?
Yes.
All right. So I see that as, the way that things tend to operate in society is that there's usually a set of rules with how things work. And for a lot of the things that I like to do, whether that be music or film and all of that, there are usually gatekeepers and all kind of systems and walls that you got to climb over to get into the door. And I've just kind of learned that sometimes you just have to just do your own thing, right? Rules are meant to be broken. It's not to say that you're supposed to, shake up everything and destroy things. But I feel like a lot of times we get in our own way out of fear or fear that somebody's going to say no. And I've learned over time, like even when it comes to asking questions, the answer is no until you ask, right? And if they give you a no, okay, well, we're going to work around it. One of the things I definitely learned in undergrad was there's always a way, right? And so when it comes to boundaries, for the kind of things that I do, I don't really pay them a lot of attention. I kind of just do what I'm going to want to do. So even with music, I'm definitely at an age where some people would say that window was 15 years ago for you. You're doing it now. It's like, okay, but music is still music. So yeah, so that's how I see it.
And Calvin, I'm glad that you articulated that way, because as a person who's only been doing this show for going on 5 years, people are so quick to compare you to other things and what other people are doing. And, sometimes you just have to shut it out. So you said it best. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Calvin. Appreciate it.
It's inspiring in many, many ways. And so, Calvin, I'm very, very happy to have you and see you tonight. And you are doing a lot. You're doing a lot of extraordinary things. Your resume is a testament to that. Music, film, choreography, comedy, and directing, as Alvin mentioned earlier. But when people ask you what you do, how would you describe yourself?
Oh, Lord. Because it's hard to put it in one box, right? I always tell people that I'm just a creative that basks in the realm of building community, and that kind of covers everything. It's because creative can go in so many directions. So that's kind of what I consider. But I would say when it comes to where my focus is at the moment, right now, it's with music and it's with film, because I'm kind of tied into that heavily right now. So those are like the two main things. But yeah, a creative that's locked into the realms of community.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay, I've been waiting a while to do this, but y'all know me. I wasn't going to pass it up. H.U. There, my fellow Bison brother. Howard Grant.
Oh, Cox. In Cox.
He does that one more time.
Go, Cox.
Calvin is a graduate of Howard University. And what I'd like to ask you is how the Howard experience has influenced in any way your artistry and how you show up in the world right now.
Yeah. So long story short, I'm originally from the other Washington State. And I grew up in this town called Spanaway, which small military town, 20 minutes outside of Tacoma, 45, 50 minutes from Seattle. If you've ever seen the sitcom Roseanne before she turned into what she became, that's the kind of town I grew up in.
Okay,
so Howard was a great escapism and just introduced me into a world that I knew existed and that I always wanted to be a part of. I was one of those kids that had that experience where you get sent to the South for the summer. So to me, Howard was like an extension of going to the South, even though DC, that's a fight in itself if you want to label it the South or not. But overall, the thing about Howard was that the environment, everybody that's there is somebody. So you may have been the big fish in a small pond in your town, but when you got to Howard, everybody was the big fish in their small pond. So it forced you to really step your game up with a lot of things, and things that you thought were excellent weren't good enough there. So you definitely got challenged. I struggled a bit. I didn't really find my pocket at Howard until about my junior year. Those first 2 years were rough for me because it was so much I was playing catch up on, just because I definitely had a different upbringing and experience. And so, but I made my lifelong friends there, which has been really great. Some of the best people I've met were still all like this, almost 15. I finished in 2010. 15 years later. So Howard was a great experience. I would do it all over again if I could. But I always say toughest experience I've ever had was Howard. So even when I go to my actual career fields and my jobs, I'm like, nothing beats the stuff we had to deal with over there. So these problems that we're having in the office, this is Sesame Street compared to the stuff we dealt with over there. You learn to be a very strong person by the time you get out of there. So,
Agreed. Big Bison love. Big Bison love.
You know, thank you. Oh, so you know what? Look, I'm so busy listening to you all. I'm just all up in it. So Calvin, let's talk about film. You mentioned that a little earlier. So you recently executive produced Pull Over So I Can Hit You, which has been featured at major festivals, as I mentioned. Briefly tell us about this project and share with us your experiences in what goes into executive producing a film that reaches this particular level.
All right, emphasis on brief because I will get in my pocket. Okay, so I have a podcast called Comedically Hardheaded, and in that podcast there was an episode called Pull Over So I Can Hit You, and it was a story of when I had to learn how to drive with my entire family in the car. And Pull Over So I Can Hit You is what my father said after I almost killed us. And so a director, Caitlin Shane Dunn, who was at USC Film School, heard the podcast, thought it was hilarious. Was like, can we please turn this into something? And so she and I worked together. You know, we did all the logistics. And so she was going to direct. I would executive produce, which I will say, if you wear the executive producer hat, just know you're the money person. So you got to really do a lot of your pre-production and make sure that's together so that you're not spending additional money that you didn't plan on spending. But we shot it beautifully, had an amazing cast. Bobby McGee played my father. You may remember him from some of the scenes out of movies like The Five Heartbeats, and he's been on the Jamie Foxx show. Lorinda Hawkins-Smith played my mother. She's also been in The Five Heartbeats and on That's So Raven. And there was also Zion Robinson and Brett. Oh my God, I'm forgetting Brett's last name. God forgive me. I'm sorry, Brett. But these are all the people that were in it. Robert Townsend was one of our mentors for the project, which was really nice. But I'll say, as far as the logistics of going in and everything, when you are that executive producer, everything falls in your hands to make sure things happen. And I mean, we had so many moments where things looked like it wasn't going to end well. And mind you, we were in 3 different coastlines. Like, my director was in Houston. The film was going to be shot in LA. I was here in DC. Literally the morning that we were supposed to shoot, the original person that was supposed to play my mother had RSV and had to pull out. So literally, as I'm on the plane with my bags, I got to find a new mom. And we have 6 hours before call time. So I got to find somebody who can play my mother, learn the lines, and be ready. You know, so there's all those kind of things you think about. During one of the days, the food never showed. And you got to pay for everything. You got to feed everybody. We had a child actor. So, you have to pay for a studio teacher. Even though we filmed during the weekend, there still needs to be an adult that's on set to make sure that child is okay. And you got to feed that studio teacher too. And so there's so many things you pay for, permits that you have to get, insurance. It's a lot of work behind the scenes. So it's really important to really lock in and do as much pre-production as you can before you get those cameras rolling. Because the worst thing is when you're on set or it's go time and there's something that hasn't been taken care of ahead of time that now you're trying to address, but you've already rented your sound stage and you have 3 hours. And so, you don't want your lapses in pre-production to cut into your production time, because then you still got to do post, which is another conversation. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but the payoff is worth it sometimes.
I absolutely love it. And one of our favorite guests, Charles Reese, he said to you, Calvin is a multifaceted artist who is going where his blood beats, as James Baldwin would say. Kudos and keep doing what brings you joy.
Thank you, Charles. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Again, I find it all incredible because you are doing so much and you're doing it from what we see on your face with ease. Like we don't. But I know, and you mentioned your podcast, and I, of course, I listen to your podcast. But let me ask you this question: what were the biggest challenges you faced taking a podcast concept and transforming it into a short film?
Yeah, so the podcast, the original episode was about 45 minutes. And with podcasting, because, I do the podcast where there's no camera, it's literally you play it on like a streaming device like Spotify or something. The audience can't see what you're talking about. So you have to paint the picture. And so with podcasting, you get all the time in the world to paint the picture and give all the details and all that stuff. With film, you show it, don't tell it. And so the challenge that you're going to run into, especially with that, is taking a 45-minute story and squeezing it into about a 10 to 15-minute window. And then we also reimagined the podcast episode and turned it more into fiction, but, you know, somewhat based on reality. So we actually introduced new characters, and we had to find a way to tell that story in a way where we could get everything out in that, you know, 10, 11 minutes, because we recut it down to about 11 minutes, used to be 14. And then, you know, have it well enough to be received well at different film festivals. And so that's the biggest challenge. And I was glad that I had my writing partner, Caitlin, the director, to work with, because she was really good at helping me shift a lot of the ideas from the podcast into the script to make it presentable for film.
A beast. A beast.
So you talk about the films being received well during the kind of like the circuit festivals and so forth. So has seeing your work, being a part of these festivals and the circuit, has it changed in any way your perspective on your artistry overall?
You know, it didn't really hit me until we were at the LA Shorts Fest in LA, and to see your work on the big screen, right? You're in a movie theater, and I'm like, okay. And when you hear that first laugh, because, you know, everything was centered in comic, when you hear that first laugh, because first of all, you're terrified because you're going up against other people who have their projects. They may have bigger budgets, you know, some of these people got $100,000 budgets. You know, I had about a fifth of that. And so you never know how your stuff will be received. So when you hear that first laugh, especially if it's at a spot where you wanted them to laugh and they laugh, you're like, okay, we're in here. And so, and you really spend the entire time like just scanning the audience, just where to laugh. Is somebody getting up to go to the bathroom type thing? So I think after that first screening, I realized, okay, we did good here, because you just never know, right? Yeah. You may think your stuff is amazing, but people will let you know if it sucks really quick, especially on the internet. So
easily and quickly, yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't want to, you know, give it away, but before we get into our next line of questioning about the musicality and the musicality of Calvin Michaels, we're going to play one of our favorite videos, ladies and gentlemen, from Calvin. It's called I Want. Ladies and gentlemen, put your for you're so darn, you almost made me curse. Okay, you almost made Calvin extraordinary, man. Look, for those of you who don't know, he is a choreographer. I've said, and Calvin, you also made a mark as a choreographer, as we can see. So, what unique challenges and or advantages do dancers face in today's era of performance and social media?
Woo! I have so much to say, but I'm going to water it down. And it's honestly because I'm actually working on a project all about the experience of dancers. I'll say right now in modern times, the biggest challenge for people that dance professionally is that the money is just not there. And because the industry has changed, we're no longer in an era where, you know, the artists are not really doing concert releases with DVDs and concert specials and stuff as much. A lot of dancers used to depend on those residuals to help pay their bills. And so we're now in an arena where there's a lot of dancers who they'll be on some big name tours. I'm not even going to be messy and name anybody, but there are some who will be on big name tours that, you know, just rap and they're already working at Starbucks because, again, there's just not a consistent flow of money. That's one issue. Also, generationally, there's somewhat of a divide. A lot of the dancers that are a little bit, this doesn't sound old, but older as far as like 25 and up have kind of been in a battle where that's that last cohort of dancers that professionally trained. And now they have to compete with what you call the dancers that get on through something like a TikTok. And so what's ending up happening is when we had the pandemic, right? A lot of the people in the arts that were in unions, whether it be the actors on Broadway or actors in SAG, they all have unions to protect them. Dancers don't. And so a lot of dancers have been trying to unionize and make sure that they get paid what they're worth. But the challenge they run into is, unfortunately, if you get that kid that's 17 from Iowa that's so excited to just be in a room, they'll take any offer because it means they're going to be next to the big named artists. And so a lot of them have been able to come in. It's pushed out a lot of the people that are a bit more technical. And so even though a lot of the TikTok dancers are great on TikTok, they're not conditioned for tour. They're not conditioned to really do promotional runs. And then the artists run into issues. And then the labels are like, well, you got to use them because they're the people that got 200,000 people following them on TikTok versus the person that probably trained for 6 or 7 years in multiple studios. So that's just a taste of what the dancers deal with. But yeah, there's a lot going on that side.
It's a lot. Thank you for giving us an insight into that, though. For those who are watching, who may have sons or daughters or even dancers yourself, and you wondering why things aren't moving the way you want, Calvin just kind of laid it out for you.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we don't have a Tina Landon of today's generation. And those who know Janet, they know who Tina Landon is. And I know that Calvin knows who that is as well.
Yeah.
We love to push buttons around here. I'm telling you.
Right.
She's a well-known choreographer who's
she is.
Yes, so
who also appears in Janet's videos as well. So.
That is true, and Sierra's videos.
All right. Whatever.
Okay, all right. My next question, Calvin. So again, you have 2 self-produced albums out recently. First one, Before Tomorrow, and After Yesterday. Now, how do you balance storytelling through movement versus music?
Yeah, so I really like making very bright music, like music that's really energetic. But at the same time, I really have love for like music that sits in a smoother pocket. And so as I was working on this project, this is what you call the Today project. And that's why the 2 albums are called what they're called, Before Tomorrow and After Yesterday. They both equate to today. Initially, it was supposed to just be one album. The music wasn't quite complementing, or as far as the songs, they weren't complementing each other because a lot of the music that's on Before Tomorrow is very dance heavy. I think a lot of my music, especially the up-tempos, I make a lot of the songs with the idea of choreography in mind, right? And so that's one aspect. And I feel like stories, you can always tell them by just people connect with your stories with how you make them feel. And so I said, in the same way that I want people to feel energetic or feel bright with the more up-tempo songs on Before Tomorrow, I still want people to understand like the aspects of like love or the aspects of just life in general with the songs that are a bit more smoother on the After Yesterday project, or even the latter songs at the end of Before Tomorrow, where the songs that are a bit more thought-provoking or, you know, that really center in social commentary. So I kind of just jump into everything, right? I think I consider my music to be very bright, but I think a lot of the material I have is also, it's jumping into life. It's jumping into what's happening in current world affairs, but it's also jumping into relationships and depression and happiness and family and all that kind of stuff. So it's a little bit of everything I just like to make the dance music videos because I still like to dance. So that's what that's about. So yeah.
Me too. I like to dance still.
Mm-hmm.
Calvin, as an educator and in the world of education, AI is really something that's very controversial, but I also know that it impacts the creative world as well. And so I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on the potential impact of AI on the music industry and, just creators like yourself in general. Like how do you anticipate AI impacting the work?
Yeah, I'm not trying to sound like somebody's grandpa, but unfortunately AI is here and we got to deal with it. But I am not a fan. I don't like it. And I think I'm just going to say I'm tired of all of the things that people invent. It's always something we never asked for. And then it's always something that eventually negatively affects other people, right? Mm-hmm. So as far as AI in music, you're now seeing this urge to almost replace artistry and replace artists with AI because it's cheaper. You don't have to pay people residuals. You don't have to do a bunch of things. But even on the creative aspect, because now there are songs that are literally being 100% created by AI. And the worst part is it's being created through real music that's been fed into that system. And so AI is literally stealing its sound and everything else from actual artists that are making music. One of the challenges that I've run into with pushing this current project as far as getting on some of the curated playlists, because I do think with a lot of the music that I make, I kind of make stuff that doesn't necessarily follow whatever the current trend is at the moment. And so a lot of the feedback that I've gotten on a handful of songs, specifically a song I have called Crash, which was influenced and inspired by Prince's America, the biggest response I kept getting from curators as to why they didn't choose the song was like, oh, this is too AI for me. This is too AI. And I'm like, I played every instrument on this song. What are you talking about? Right? But it's to the point where even curators can't tell between what's real and what's not. So AI it's here, but I think it's going to be a problem. It's going to be something that eventually starts to push out creatives. Even in television, you can literally create an entire TV show into AI. Just type in what you need and they can give you 10 prompts for episode ideas and then you can get them to write the episode too. So yeah, as a creative person who believes in art, I'm not a fan. That's just where I'm at.
No, thank you for that. And point taken. All right. So Calvin, we're going to move into, because again, you're a threat buddy and you've done a lot of community outreach in your tenure. So actually, I read that you spent 11 years directing a nationally acclaimed after-school program. Can you share with us what that organization was all about, the work you did there, and why it was so meaningful to you?
Yeah, so I actually ran an after-school program here in the DMV. And with the organization, I can't say the name, but you guys can figure it out. But yeah, so they have 4,600 locations across the United States and in military bases that serve U.S. citizens across the world. And so one of the things that they have is there was always an assessment that measured whether or not the members that were coming to your center, as far as the kids, whether they were having this optimal experience. Do they feel that they belong? Are they being recognized? Do they feel safe? Are there opportunities and expectations? Are there, just all these different things, right? And so I began working at that center in 2011. It was in a converted 3-bedroom apartment. It was a center that didn't have a football field, basketball court, none of that. We were literally in an apartment that was turned into a community space. And so when I decided to actually take the role and stay, the people that I work with and the team that was there, because a lot of us all started together at the same time, we just kind of made an effort to say, even though we don't have the largest center, let's make everything that we do grand. Let's make it so that these kids, because it was also in a public housing complex, right? So it's like, let's make sure that these kids, every time they come into this space, that this is a space where they can, not only be themselves, but use their imagination, feel that they belong, feel that they're seen. And so I did a lot of partnering with community organizations, agencies to make sure that even though we didn't have all the bells and whistles, everything would still come to our door. And so the kids got every experience in the world. They probably met every NBA player, every NFL player. We were on the Today Show. They got to meet Barack Obama and do a scavenger hunt with him. And I mean, I was terrified because, Secret Service don't play. One of the kids was ready to jump on his back. So the kids have had every experience in the world. And I think what was beautiful about it was that I had the same cohort of children the entire time. The neighborhood that they lived in had a waiting list for families to move in. And so there weren't a lot of families moving into the neighborhood. And so the kids that I started with in 2011 were still there when I transitioned out in 2022. And what's crazy is I'm still connected to that center, right? I literally just dropped off one of my old kids to college 2 weeks ago. But I've had, and I'll say also, I was 23 when I started. So some of these teenagers at the time really weren't kids. They were almost my peers, right? I'm 23. Some of these ones that are 17, 18. So some of the oldest that I've worked with are now 29, 30, 31, right? So the beautiful thing is you get to see the outcome of your work. And so a lot of the kids that have come out of the center are doing exceptionally well. You love to see the generational impact. And as far as the ranking with the organization, with that assessment that they had, we ranked number 4 in the country out of those 4,600 sites in 2016. And then in 2017, 2018, we ranked number 1, and then pandemic, and then we went back up to number 1 again in 2021 and 2022, which was really, really cool. Because again, this was not the center that has all the bells and whistles. And the results are, again, this is coming from what the kids there felt about their space. So that was the good thing. You know that you're loved. So yeah, that was really great work that I enjoyed doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I personally don't believe that you can separate community from art and artistry, and you can't separate artistry and art from community. So that is my belief. But
and I use a lot of it with the kids. I had a web series before. The kids was in one of the episodes. We did lots of. I will say we did a lot of music. I taught music there as well and taught dance. Because you gotta be no football field, no swimming pool. These kids need something to do. All right, well, y'all about to learn. You got to learn the routine from one of these music videos. Come on, y'all. Yeah.
Well, again, so you were a leader. So with that, so what role do you think that artists and cultural leadership play in helping communities, especially help them thrive?
Yeah, because I really think the best of the best when it comes to art is built out of the culture that's built in communities, right? As long as you're always in community, your ear's always to the street. Your ear's always, and your eyes are always going to know what's that next great thing. How do you end up getting, what I always say, when you look at a lot of the greats, especially those in music or even TV and film that had their heyday in the 80s and the 90s, maybe even early 2000s, what you notice is so many of them are tied and connected together. So when you think of the story of like Salt and Pepper, working at Sears, and who else worked there? Kid and Play, Martin, all these different people who, again, community. The thing is that as you're climbing up, you're supposed to bring everybody with you. And so I've always looked at anything I do, especially in the arts, as like a horizontal journey. So even if I'm in a room with somebody who definitely is a legend in the game, this is not to sound cocky or anything, but I recognize that as much as I probably need them to get a foot in the door, there's probably something that they could benefit from my end as well. So what can we collaborate on? I'm not somebody who's overly ecstatic to be in any room because I feel like I'm already supposed to be there. And that's not, and I promise I'm not trying to sound cocky, but I feel like when you have the mentality of thinking that you are beneath somebody else or that you're not worthy of something, you second guess yourself, right? You start questioning it, and then before you know it, you might get lucky and you're in the room giving the pitch for your TV show to the people at Netflix, but you've already given 20 disclaimers about your show because you're afraid of what they're going to say, as opposed to if you walk in there like, this is the best thing. You guys, you're missing out if you don't lock in on this. So as far as arts and community, I think it all ties together. And I think for artists, again, it's always important to remember where you come from. As somebody who is not from DC, but has lived here since they were 18, one of the first things and one of the lessons that my family had taught me, because I do have family here, is they said, get your Howard experience, but also get your DC experience and become a part of something. And so even though I don't technically qualify as a Washingtonian, I feel like my hand and footprints are all over the city because I locked in with community, locked in and wanted to belong. I didn't come here and try to change stuff and make it fit to what I came from, because, a lot of people they move here and start erasing elements of the culture that was already established before we got here. So that's kind of how I move on that.
Thank
Calvin,
you.
You've been very open about your journey of navigating the loss of a parent. And that's something many of us know. But can you share with us how and in what ways it's impacted your artistry and your experience?
What's crazy? I always say, like, dang, my father passed right before everything took off for me. Around the time he passed, I started the YouTube channel. We had done the web series, but other than that, I was really in a place in life just trying to iron stuff out. Stuff was just not working out. As much as I loved working with the kids, we know that when you do community work, the payout, you get just enough to get by, right? You get paid in increments of struggle. So I was kind of down bad. But I will say that I remember being at the funeral. And it was a weird day because I didn't cry or anything, which kind of threw me off. I thought I was going to be in there snot crying. But I was so reflective that day because I remember sitting and his casket was right in front of me. And I kept thinking, like, damn, life is so short. I got to really get it together when I get back home. When I get back, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. So I literally, I got back home. I applied to film school. got rejected 5 times, but it's okay. I built my recording studio and I just started jumping into things. And it kind of was like the wake-up call. My father did a really good job of raising us to, be upstanding individuals and have empathy and, really just make sure that the things that we want to be remembered for are good things. And hearing all the great things that were said about him, I was like, dang, well, when my time comes, I want to make sure I'm in that same boat. And so that's kind of where he's fallen in. He's got a song or two dedicated on my first 2 projects. And so I think even with his musical ear, his ear is my ear because that's where I got my musical taste from. He and I always did road trips as a child.
Yes.
And we was in California. We'd always do that 22-hour drive to LA from Seattle, 13-hour drive. And that car ride would be all kind of music, everything that Seals and Croft and Free to Pain and, everything under the sun. And his sound and what he listened to is what kind of built the foundation for what I was into. And so even some of my favorite artists like a Prince or a Janet or some of the other ones, he was fans of them. So it kind of rubbed off on me. So indirectly, his elements are there. And even as we did the film, what was really cool when I was working with Bobby McGee, who's playing my father, getting that sit down and saying, well, this is kind of probably how my father would have said this, but let's make it a little bit more comedic, right? So those elements are all over.
Great. Thank you.
So Calvin, if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about following the creative path that you've been on, what would it be today at this time?
Don't get comfortable too quick, and don't put a just in front of anything you want to do. The same thing I always tell the kids that I work with, especially the teenagers, when they start hitting 14, 15, 16, then I ask them, well, what do you want to do after high school? What do you want to be? If they put a just in front of it, the way I would not chew them out, but I'm like, listen, they're like, oh, well, I'm just going to go to, this thing and I'm going to go and be a nurse's assistant. And I said, listen, you're 15, 16, 17. If you're putting just in front of anything that you're talking about that you're going to do for the rest of your life, you've already settled. There shouldn't be adjusted that age. 15, 16, you're supposed to want to go to the moon. And, when I was in high school, I used to tell everybody, I'm going to be in Rush Hour 3. I'm going to be in Rush Hour 3. Yeah, I'm going to be in Rush Hour 3. Now, it came out just as I was graduating, so that didn't happen. But, maybe I can be in Rush Hour 4 if they make one. Mm-hmm. And so I've just, when it comes to your creative process, what I would have told myself then is not get too comfortable. And I will say, creating somewhat of a better balance. There were some moments where, because community work is very hands-on, especially running a center, there's lots of things I had to pull back from or cut back from or sacrifice in favor of making sure the center was okay. Even when my father died, I still went to work the next day because we had a person that was a grant supervisor coming to do like an inspection. And I was the only person who had the insight on everything they would have needed to know. And so in moments like that, you got to learn to pace yourself and make sure that there's balance. But the biggest thing, again, not being comfortable, not being afraid to jump out there, make that move to whatever city if you got to do it. Sell yourself, submit that song, even the work that you put out. If you believe in it, send it out there. So that's kind of where I would be at. I think we spend so much time afraid of the response or afraid of the failure. And either way, whether you fail or not, at least you did it. And there's nothing worse than looking back on something and you're in shoulda, coulda, woulda mode, right? So, yeah.
Well, thank you. This kind of sets me up, ladies and gentlemen. We have one more selection from Calvin Michaels, and this is so wow. This is kind of serendipitous because you talked about your dad and the era of music that inspired you. And when I heard this song, this is one of my favorites. It's called "So Good." And after we play it, Calvin can kind of give you a brief, tell you about the song. So, ladies and gentlemen, "So Good" by Calvin Michaels.
Your smile is so relaxing. It's like diamonds, and though you're so much more to me, I get stars in my eyes when I see that we can grow old and let the laughs hold us. It's beauty by design. It's happiness inside. Take a look, it was just destiny. So much, you make me in love, and you are a lifted weight. Drift away to heaven, let's fly away now. Let's go back to the first date, happiness like a birthday. Go back to the ways, go back to the ways, because the way that we love, the way that we touch, it gives us so much. You make me feel so good. We're going to a place tonight, yeah. You make me feel so good. Can we just dance tonight? Can we just dance tonight? Can we just dance tonight? Let me take your hand, come with me. Heartbeat, so beautiful, and all the night is so rich in love, in love. You make me feel so good. We're going to a place tonight, you and me, baby. You make me feel so good. Can we just dance tonight? Just dance tonight. So good. Just dance. When you love me back, makes me feel so good. Makes me feel.
Ladies and gentlemen, So Good by Calvin Michaels. Calvin, briefly tell us a little bit about that song before we close out with you tonight.
Yeah, that's the opening song on my After Yesterday album. Like I said, my first two albums were very dance heavy because I love to dance, but I also really love like very just nice, smooth, soulful music. And so when I was creating that song, I had been listening to Brothers Johnson, I'll Be Good to You, one of my favorite songs. And so I was like, I want a song that kind of has that essence, but kind of also sounds like a Lucy Pearl Dance Tonight kind of vibe. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that is. And what's very funny is like there's a remix to that song on the other album that sounds nothing like what you heard. It's very dance oriented. I was like, let me go back to the era of like when your remix was actually its own song that was totally different. So I think it sets the tone for that entire album. And for me, that album was the album for me that I felt like is like the personal growth, where I challenged myself to make an album that's just centered on how it makes people feel, right? Yes, we can make people dance, but what about, when after you done did the dance, you need to sit down, or it's to cool down, or when you're coming home at 2 or 3 o'clock after a great evening or something like that, right? Something that's just nice and smooth to drive to. So I wanted to make sure that kind of set the tone for what people would expect on that album.
I loved every minute of it. Thank you. Monica Pleasant, we just put up his website, calvinmichaels.com. That's where you can get the music. Please visit Calvin at calvinmichaels.com. All right, Sean.
I miss the remix era, particularly from the 90s. So I'm glad that an artist is going back to that, where you can have a song that have 2 different versions to it. But anyway, that's a sidetrack. but it speaks to you doing what you're doing in terms of just boundaries. So what was one boundary what is one boundary that you want to break in your career?
So I actually have a desire to make music for other artists. I kind of look at my music as just a resume, where if somebody's like, well, what can you do? Well, here we go. But as far as boundaries, I think people have lost the plot with music. They forget that music is timeless. And so people have gotten into a space where the music industry is centered and only focused on that 25 and down crowd. If I were able to get into some of the spaces that I would like to get into, I would actually like to produce music for a lot of the artists that are seasoned, the people who were a bit more popular 20 and 25 years ago. And I say that because a lot of these acts are constantly still in the studio or trying to get out there, but younger producers don't want to give them their good material because it's like, okay, we heard, I'm trying to think of an example. I don't know. We heard In Vogue, we got 3 of them back. I don't think we're going to get Don, but it's 3 plus 1. If In Vogue says they're in the studio right now, most current young producers aren't going to want to work with them because they want to give their good material to, I don't know, somebody that's a bit more current. And I think what that has done is it's closed off the opportunities that were there. I just remember growing up, and there were tons of artists that were definitely in their 40s, 50s, 60s that were still on the radio. Like as a child, we didn't look at somebody like a Tina Turner or a Patti LaBelle or an Aretha or Luther was younger, but you know, some of that, we didn't look at them as too old for music. If it sounded good, it sounded good. One of my favorite songs growing up was Patti LaBelle, Feels Like Another One, right? New Jack Swing, like that's the period of those early, you know, kindergarten years for me. And so I think one of the boundaries that I would like to break is just that idea of keeping people that have a passion for music locked into a bubble where after 25, there's not a shot for them. Because I think a lot of people don't even come into their own as an artist until after that age. I didn't drop my first album until I was 29. And so that would be something I would want to break. Because even with touring, honestly, who are the acts that are actually out here giving the great shows and still selling out? It's nothing against the people that are 18, 19, 20, but we're talking the stadiums, the arenas right now, and these massive tours, it's a lot of the seasoned acts. Right. So I think there's been a generational divide where people have kind of forgotten that people over a certain age still like music too. So that's where I would be on that.
Well, Calvin, of course, we don't want to let you go. And we have gotten to the end of our interview with you. And so before we do that, I have, you know, told folks that they can go to calvinmichaels.com. And I told them that you can go to your IG. I think we put your IG account up there. But is there any place else that you would direct people to find your music and more about Calvin Michaels?
Yeah, so my music is on everything that you can stream on. And you can purchase also on iTunes or Amazon, but if you search Calvin Michaels on Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, all those different things, my stuff will pop up. YouTube also creates the music profile stuff too, so you can even just literally type in on YouTube, my music will pop up. And then as far as like all my socials, everything, you literally just type in Calvin Michaels, I pop up. If you go to the calvinmichaels.com website, all of my socials are on there as well. But my username for all my socials under Calvin Michaels is just Give Me a Beat, GIMMIEABEAT. That's for Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter. So yeah, I'm pretty accessible. So yeah.
Well, Calvin Michaels, thank you for being. We're not even gonna we're gonna close the show with you because you're like family. You've been on here so long with us tonight. So thank you, Kendall, for joining us tonight. But again, want to thank you for being here with us tonight. You are just absolutely amazing. I expected nothing less because you are true. When you're walking the room, you know that you're supposed to be there, and I get it. I totally get it. Ladies and gentlemen, next week we will be live again, and we have a new live show for you guys. We will have author Michael Caine here to talk about his new book, A Child of God, and he will be here on Friday, September the 19th. And we can't leave without giving you our words of the week. There are two things we get every day when we wake up: a chance and a choice. It can't be any more simpler than that. Okay, so thank you, Bobby, for sharing those with us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you, Calvin Michaels, for showing up and showing out and sharing with us. Bobby and Sean, love you guys. So until next week, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself, and we'll see you on the next new episode of He Said.
He Said.
He said.
All right. What was that?
Have a good night. Again, thanks for being here, Calvin. Appreciate you. Mm-hmm.